Hi, I'm Annette Sisson. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I started writing poetry seriously or making time to do it in 2018. And since then, I've published a chapbook and two books and about a couple hundred poems. And this is my third poem in West Trade, and I'm really pleased to have this one here in this journal. So there's actually an interesting story behind this poem. It's called Undone, and on December 18th, I had total shoulder replacement surgery. And my friends who are writers said, "Oh, you'll have so much to write about from that experience." And I thought, no, I'm not going to write about my surgery. But a month later, I was sitting in my office writing, and there had been a sudden dip in temperature, snow, and a brief deep freeze. And my husband had been out in the backyard, and the dog, the golden retriever, had something in its mouth. And he went to check it out. And it was a deer leg severed at what we would say is about the knee, the mid joint down. And it was frozen solid. It was perfect. It was stark. It was beautiful, but it was shocking. And so he brought it into the house, into my office, and held it out to me and said, "What should I do with this?" And when I had my shoulder replacement surgery, I had thought about, because I'm a professor and I teach historical literature, that, how there was no shoulder replacement surgery until very recently and how those people suffered. I hadn't really thought about animals. And here was this leg he was presenting to me. And I thought, well, maybe the animal survived. I'm not sure, but it certainly did not. It didn't have the opportunity to have its leg restored like I did. And then I remembered that during surgery, my arm was unhitched from the socket, like it was separated from my body while they put in a whole new joint system, a cup, a ball, a rod, and installed it. And then they rehitched my arm. And so it was a very strange moment. And I realized that this was going to be a poem. I was going to have to write about this. So I started writing, and it was a long poem, and it was all one stanza. And I don't think I've probably ever written a poem that was successful that went through this much revision, because I was trying to figure out how it needed to be on the page to represent the experience. And so at first, I divided it into stanzas, and I had trailing lines and opening lines that started in the middle and so forth, so that I was creating sort of a slash down the page. But also, I was going back and forth between the deer experience and my surgery. And so eventually I decided, okay, I need to pull the parts to the left that are about the deer and the parts to the right somewhat that are about my shoulder surgery. And so I played with that for a while, and the whole time I was paring it down, 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 because I wanted it to be clean and stark and lean, just like that deer's leg that was so beautiful. But I did want this idea of things that were separated, that were close together, like those trailing lines had been with the next line, the first line of the next stanza. So eventually I decided, though I don't usually use extra spaces or caesuras in poems, that I would take out all the punctuation and I would try these caesuras to kind of show the break, but not huge breaks, though I put in a little bit larger caesura before all cleared away and before sutures, because those were sort of the points at which the surgery was succeeding with all the problems that were in my shoulder. And so I also changed titles at least three times. And I was trying, in the whole poem, I wanted there to be irony and I wanted it to be visceral. And I wanted the title to address the physicality, but also the emotional response to the experience. And I think with Undone, I finally found the right title, but it took quite a while. I recently showed my students all the revisions of this poem, and they were stunned that a poem could change so much. But I just kept going for the vision of the experience, and that's what happened. And so the poem, Undone. The sight of it, the deer's perfect foreleg, pried from the dog's mouth, balanced between my husband's hands. The surgeon's scalpel opens my shoulder. The leg, covered in dun suede, cloven hoof, chiseled onyx. Forceps divide my muscles, first layer, second, ancillary cuts, arm unhitched from socket. Limb so thin it hardly seems muscled, tendons pinned to bone, immaculate, except for the breach, rimmed in red. The saw cleaves the head of my humerus, bone spurs, shredded rotator cuff, arthritis, all cleared away. Titanium rod, cup, sutures. My husband implores, what should I do with this? I gape at the deer's unbodied leg, shrug my salvaged shoulder.